This is BBC News with Sam.
Hello and welcome. Today we'll take a look at one of the most historic schools in England, Boston Grammar School, over the past 10 years. We'll get some views from notable members of the school, but first let's take a look at the brief history of this academy.
Boston Grammar School has always had a wealth of history. It was founded in the 16th century and has always been at the peak of education. The library, which originally was the entire school building, dates back to the 13th century, where all subjects took place. Boston Grammar is very proud of its heritage and history that shaped the school into what it is today. But the school has since had some harsh times, especially with the floods of December last year and the problems with the local high school merger of 2009. Boston Grammar is still a thriving school, achieving highly in every single subject.
We're now joined by the principal of the school, Mr. Marsh.
Alright, thank you for joining us today, sir.
A pleasure.
What first attracted you to Boston Grammar School?
Well, what first attracted me to this school was the fact that it was a very small school and a very local community. I came here from an inner city comprehensive, the low floor targets, completely other end of the market. And I came in this school for an interview and somebody opened the door for me and I actually turned sideways to face him because that's what we were trained to do at our school. And I felt embarrassed afterwards because this is a different kind of school.
Yeah.
You're not so much in danger. So I think it was very much the fact that it was small, local, community based and clearly very, very well ordered.
And when you first came to the school as an English teacher, did you have the job of principal always in sight, or was that something that came later?
No, I mean I came here to be deputy head to John Neal, and I kind of figured he would probably be carried out in the box, so he'd be here for the next 50 years or so. So no, I didn't have designs on being either head teacher or of course I wouldn't have foreseen principal because we weren't in the academy.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've been here a fair few number of years, that's safe to say.
Indeed.
What would you say is the greatest change to the school that's happened?
I think the greatest change to the school is probably the greatest change to all schools, which is that schools have become more sort of urgent, more focused, more target-driven. I think when I first arrived, the school was very much a sort of parochial-friendly grammar school. Yes, it needed to get results, but it wasn't under the constraints of things like contextual value added. So when students did well, people were just happy. Yeah. Whereas now when students do well, we have to look at whether they've done well enough. So I think over time all schools have found that the Ofsted inspection regime and everything else means that we have to work that much harder.
During the period of federation in the school, how would you say the administrative changes of the merger between the grammar school and the high school had affected the performance and overall feel of the school?
Yeah, it's a big question there, and it's quite a difficult subject. As you know, the demographics in the town suggested the two schools needed to merge together, and it was a Lancashire County Council bid to the government for lots of money to enable that to happen. Now, of course, to get that money, we had to go through what was called readiness to deliver, which meant we had to start merging the two schools before we saw any money. So anybody who sort of currently is in year 11 will know that half of their year group is still at the high school because that was the first cohort of boys into a girls' school. And what that meant was we had clearly teachers travelling between two schools, we had this site being run down towards a closure, and we had all kinds of staffing restructuring going on. So it was a difficult time, and anybody who knows Boston will also know that although the schools are a mile and a half apart, on John Adams Way, that can take about 3 hours. So it was logistically very difficult to arrange.
And how did you deal with the problems that had arisen from this when you became principal?
Well, one of my only job really when I became at the time acting head in May 2010 was to unpick the two schools, because by that point the government had changed hands in March 2010. The Building Schools for the Future project had failed. The £20 million was no longer coming. We had boys in another school, staff missing, and the job was to try to get the school back up and running with a substantial budget deficit, I should add. We were left without a lot of money as a result of this project. And really it was a question of trying to keep the place sustainable, get students back into the building and just make it work in the first place.
And these problems had arisen, of course, during the period of 2007 to 2010, when Helen McAvoy was the headmaster. Can you comment on her leadership during that period?
Yeah, I mean, I would never comment on somebody's personal performance, but what I would say is that Mrs. McAvoy was given a very tough job to try to merge two schools where there was clearly some local opposition to that merger, and it was always going to be a hard thing to try and do.
Mm-hmm. And last year there was an important change to the school when we gained academy status. First of all, could you just outline the changes that had arisen because of this?
Yeah, academy status is an interesting concept because, of course, it takes a school out of the control of a local authority and it makes it a company in its own right and a registered charity as well. So what you've got to bear in mind is that while we were a £3 million turnover business, and still are, some of that business was predicated on getting support services from a local authority, whereas now we are a standalone company. Yeah. And it does mean that there's an awful lot of extra work to be done. What it also meant was that in January 2013 we got a funding injection which we needed to plug the hole left by the BSF failure. So we kind of used that money to make ourselves stable and sustainable, and we now trade with a healthy budget balance, but it has brought with it a lot of extra work.
Would you say that being brought directly under the Secretary of State has dramatically changed the way the school operates?
No, it hasn't, because this school, one of the things that academy status can bring you, for example, is curriculum freedoms. This is a grammar school, it's a traditional old school. We were always going to offer a traditional grammar school curriculum. So some of those freedoms, in inverted commas, we don't really benefit from because we do what we do. Do we report directly to the Secretary of State? Notionally, yes. Am I ever likely to meet Mr. Gove? No. So it doesn't, whilst we come under his auspices, it doesn't change things for parents, for students. It really just changes the way I do things.
How would you say you dealt with the opposition to becoming an academy?
It actually wasn't too much of it, and all things are relative, I know, but if you think back to 2007, there was a lot of opposition to merging two schools. When we moved forward to 2012-13 and academy status, I think most people realised that the school needed to take the capital injection, become an academy like other schools. The national trend was for schools to do this. There wasn't really that much opposition to academy status.
And what would you say the greatest improvement is that you've seen overall during your time as principal?
Yeah, I mean, if you pin it to those 4 years since 2010, it has to be exam results. I mean, we've had two of the best years of A-level results, well, the two best years of A-level results the school has had in that 4 years. We've had 3 of the 4 best sets of GCSE results the school has had. So purely on numbers, the school has improved significantly. And also, you think in 2010, when I started, Ofsted came and said the school required improvement, which clearly we all knew. And in 2013 they came and said it's good with outstanding features. So clearly things have moved forward, and all of that down to the fact that students succeed.
And finally, we're very sorry to see you leave as
thank
principal.
You very much.
But could you predict the sort of changes that might happen in the future?
I mean, I'm hoping that the school's been here for 460 something years. I'm hoping that not much will change. You don't get to be that old an institution without doing something right. Having said that, academy status means you are now an independent company. You're run by a small governing body, and strategic planning is down to them. Can I second guess where the school will go? Possibly not. My job was always to manage the school and make sure that pupils got what they needed and did as well as they could. Where the school will go in future is really down to other people. But I'm hoping it'll continue to be very successful and go from strength to strength.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Many thanks to Mr. Marsh for his time. We now have our correspondent Matthew interviewing other teachers about the school.
Thank you for joining us today. What first attracted you to the school?
The fact that it was a grammar school, and I started my teaching career in a grammar school. I just fancied a change, moving away from comprehensive education again.
It's one of those, when you come out of university then you need a job. So it was one of those that was in the area, I went to work at another school for 6 years, and then when the job came up here, I know Mr. Waymouth really well. The school's fantastic. The boys here are always well motivated for PE. Obviously, being a boys' grammar school, it always helps. So the reputation of the school was really good, and I thought I could contribute to that in the future. So it's a school that interested me, and luckily.
Well, it's 19 years now nearly since I actually joined the school. In that time, I suppose a lot of the things here have changed. But at first, certainly, it was its reputation for academic excellence. And when I arrived for interview, obviously the students themselves were a great asset. It was a very friendly school, which I think it still is. And fundamentally, I just like the town. Boston's a great place.
What would you say the greatest change has been during the school whilst you've been here?
Gosh, well, you're talking about in terms of my own department, I guess, in terms of music, just seeing the level of equipment changing and then seeing how the boys are able to then adapt their skills and work with that. Yeah, there's been, I can't think of any other changes, just, yeah, it's just the school's just evolving, we're getting bigger again, so there's a lot more happening, I guess, on a day-to-day basis.
I don't know really. It doesn't seem to have changed too much since I've been in. The standards are still high. The expectations of students are still very high. The results have always been very good. Obviously, with the federation and the now with academy status, things are a little bit more accountable. So we need to make sure that the results stay as good as it could be. But the ethos of the school is still there. The students still work really hard, like you guys are doing here. Get involved in lots of different things. The diversity of the things that are going on are fantastic. If we could advertise a bit more, that would be good, because the students here are so creative and we get things done. It's just nice to get people to know about it. Okay. So I don't think too much has changed. Hopefully we'll just keep going forward, keep working as hard as we can.
I suppose in 19 years, the staff that have come and gone is probably the biggest change, and it's the people that make the school. And obviously, in 19 years as well, I've taught a lot of students, and you know, a lot of them you get to know very well. And perhaps the saddest part of being a teacher is that you lose touch with those students, so you don't necessarily see what they all go on to do. But it's a great job, and I'm absolutely convinced that the vast majority of them have made the most of their opportunities and potential.
Okay, thank you for your time.
I'm Sam, this is BBC News.